What is turnover anymore? Yo, welcome to another episode of my unprofessional emOpinion. Today, I want to give my unprofessional opinion on the evolution of the band Turnover. I love Turnover. I have been listening to them forever, and I just am utterly fascinated at what they have become from what they were. This was pop punk to indie, dream pop, funky, sexy, very interesting. Yeah, let's chat about it. Let's go. So, I believe the story of Turnover kind of begins with the self-titled Turnover EP from 2011. That EP is undeniably pop punk all the way, fast-paced, slightly heavy but still bright and pop punk, super iconic. The song Sasha is just so iconic, and that was kind of the sound of Turnover that I knew them. I knew Turnover by this fast-paced pop punk sound. That EP is amazing. Also, I'm not going to go in depth into each album and EP because there's a ton of them we have to get through. But we're just going to look at the overall kind of evolution and just kind of see how things have changed. So the Turnover EP is actually not the first thing that I was introduced to when it comes to Turnover. The first song I ever heard from Turnover was actually Most of the Time from the Magnolia album. And from that song, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. And I was then hooked on the Magnolia album because that's where I heard Most of the Time, and that's where I fell in love with them. The song Shiver. It's such a good album. So here there's already kind of a switch. And in between those two, I believe there was the split EP with Citizen that Turnover kind of shared with the song Permanent, and I forget the name of the other one. No Sun. No Sun was the second song from them on that EP. Still very pop punk, plain and simple. Amazing stuff. And then, so we get to the Magnolia album with Shiver and Most of the Time and Wither and just Chef's Kiss, amazing album. And I would say it is pop punk for the most part. I would say some of the songs on this album kind of lean a little bit on the grunge side, or you can kind of hear a shoegazy type of effect. Remember, this is my unprofessional opinion. I don't know what I'm talking about, so don't judge me. But, songs like Most of the Time and, even Shiver kind of leans a little bit grunge toward the end. It's still a pop punk leaning album, and it is a beautiful masterpiece. If you haven't listened to it yet, I highly suggest that. But that's where I fell in love with them. And then after Magnolia, Turnover released an EP called Blue Dream in 2014, the year after Magnolia. And Blue Dream is quite the blue dream. This is an album to get stoned to, for sure. Not album, EP. This is an EP to sit in your car and hotbox it and listen to it. And I don't say that to minimize the masterpiece that is Blue Dream, okay? It's kind of like these sweet lullabies, and each song has kind of got this crescendo effect where it starts very kind of slow and soft, and then we almost get a huge kind of coming all together. Oh my god, Jesus Christ. My phone fell over. We're at a new angle. Hey, this is even better. Everything happens for a reason. What were we talking about? Blue Dream. Yes, so each song on there kind of comes together with like this huge, I would say like grungy shoegazy effect. Maybe not so much grungy shoegazy, more of like it just builds, and it's almost, I almost don't know how to explain it. I mean, vocal wise, I would say very pop punk still vocally. I would say we're kind of slowing down. That pace is no longer there. That pace that we had in songs like Shiver and the self-titled EP. We're not getting that pace anymore. We're slowing down. So, we've slowed down a little bit, and then we got hit with Peripheral Vision. Iconic album. It's coming up on its 10-year anniversary, and they're doing the tour for it, and it's sold out, and I didn't get a ticket, and I'm kicking myself for it. Because this album made such an imprint on my life and a certain time in my life, and everything that was happening at the time that this album came out was just, it felt just so monumental. And what's weird is that I'm not the only one that feels that way. When I started kind of posting on TikTok songs from Peripheral Vision and stuff like that, people had the same experience. It's almost like everyone's favorite album to listen to in the fall, and it's almost embedded in the sound itself that it is painful. It's a very painful album, and I was going through a very painful time when I was listening to that, and I feel like a lot of other people did too. Like, they kind of gravitated towards Peripheral Vision during a painful time in their life, and we all kind of cry about it together. I don't know. It's something that we share. But anyway, this album presented us with a sound. It was almost like, this is where I was like, is this turnover? Is this even pop punk anymore? I don't know. But at the same time, I didn't care. I did not care what the genre was of this album. I usually don't care regardless about genres. Like, it's just like a stupid label, but the genre shifted. I feel like New Scream, at least the song New Scream, Cutting My Fingers Off, Take My Head, like, those are still quite pop punk. Like those are still very pop punk jams, I would say. But, you know, what is it? Hello Euphoria and Threshold, Interpersonal, all of these songs are kind of, they're much slower, and they don't sound very pop punk. It's almost, this is where we're getting a little bit of that indie vibe. It was starting to feel a little indie, but it was so feel good, even though I say it was so sad and heartbreaking. Like, that's what I associate this album with. A lot of those songs are so uplifting chord wise, like chord progression wise. I think lyrically, of course, it's absolutely solemn and sad, but the sounds of these songs were very uplifting, and it was just such a unique album. Like, when you see that album cover, that red, that shattered, you know, photograph, whatever thing that is, like, you get a certain feeling. You feel what you felt when you were listening to Peripheral Vision around the time it came out. Anyway, this is kind of like where we start to see a little bit of a shift, or that when I started to see a shift, it was getting a little indie. indie sleaze, indie dreamy, I've been saying shoegazy a lot, or shoegaze, whatever. I don't listen to shoegaze, but from what I've heard of shoegaze music, I get a little bit of that kind of sprinkled in albums like Peripheral Vision. That's what my ears are getting. So we have that iconic non-skip banger of an album, Peripheral Vision, and we all know and love it, and that's why they're throwing this crazy anniversary tour for it, because it was just so successful and so iconic. We got 2 songs after Peripheral Vision, Humblest Pleasures and Change Irreversible, and those 2 songs kind of sound like an extension of Peripheral Vision. It kind of has like a similar sound, but there's sort of a different sound that is kind of underlying there. Like, especially with Change Irreversible, it's leaning into that very easy listening beach vibes. It's kind of like a driving with the windows down in Hawaii type of vibe is what I'm getting from Change Irreversible. And Humblest Pleasures is, it's so Peripheral Vision. It reminds me of like the song Humming, and the pace. It's a little bit bouncy. It's a little bit like whatever. We are so far away from pop punk now. So far. And then they hit us with Good Nature in 2017, and I actually stopped listening to Turnover's stuff after that came out. I didn't listen to Good Nature in full because sometimes people get that feeling like when one of their favorite bands changes up their sound completely and you're just like, oh my god, what happened? It wasn't like that for me, because they really gradually went into this sound. I think that's what's so fascinating about the evolution of their sound, is that it was gradual. They didn't just come out and hit us with whatever. They were like, oh, I'm gonna add a little bit of a funky beachy vibe in this song, but I'm still gonna keep some pop punk tracks on there and whatever. All that happened was I was like, oh, this just isn't music that I usually choose to listen to. I like to listen to pop punk, and this is indie. I'm not really a huge indie fan, but I do appreciate the music. I think there's a lot of beautiful indie songs and indie artists out there, and it was just not my vibe. And I was kind of shocked when I kind of listened to Good Nature for the first time. Like I said, I didn't listen to it in full when it came out. I just very recently, I was just, listening to Turnover again, and this intrigue about the change in their sound really struck me. And so I listened to it, and it's so different. It is so indie. This is like indie all the way, babe. We're like in full indie dream pop vibey territory with Good Nature. I think it's beautiful. I think it's gorgeous. I wouldn't, choose to listen to it, in my spare time, but I think it's really cool. And they just, naturally evolved into this new sound. Yeah. Fully indie. We're fully indie now with Good Nature. And then they release this album called All Together. And I just listened to this recently, very recently. And I was like, is this the same band? Is this Turnover? What is happening? And it's just so funny. It's just so funny how their sound is it's gradually changed and gone this way, but it's just transformation station with this band. And I'm here for it. I'm not actively listening to it anymore, but I'm like, wow, like, go off, Turnover, do your thing. The album All Together is like, it's got saxophone. Like, it's sexy, saxy, like slow. It's almost giving me smooth jazz at this point. And we've got like bongos or something. There's like tropical noises. It's very different. It's very different, but it's cool. For me, I feel like it seems that they are in love with their transformation. Like they are in love with their new sound because they keep taking it further and further down this direction. It's just so different than the Turnover I knew when I first listened. And then, very, very recently, a 2022 album called Myself in the Way. This album is so different. It literally starts with like a piano leading into like a synthy piano. It's just like this instrumental kind of intro thing. And then they've got this sexy groovy track with Brandon Yates from Trapped Under Ice. They have that, and it's very groovy and smooth. Myself in the Way is very synth heavy, very super stonery. It's super stonery, but also it's giving smooth jazz. Like it's giving funk smooth jazz. It's also giving like another era. I think there was a song in there that was sounding almost Motowny. Like it's so interesting. I don't know. Like it's cool. Like do that. We've covered somewhat of the changes that have occurred within the lifespan of Turnover's career. There is one song that has just been released. And I am not one to have super strong opinions. Truly, I'm not. But there's a song that came out. It's a single called Racing. I'll have the artwork, the album, whatever, the single cover here. I have no idea what the hell I was listening to. First of all, it's in a different language. This is kind of actually what sparked this video, was that I heard this and I was like, hold on, like, did they get hacked? I thought they got hacked or something. And then I kind of went back and I listened through the albums and realized that there was a gradual kind of change. But man, somebody tell me if they think that they got hacked or if this was the decision. I'm not hating on it, but I just don't know what the hell I'm hearing when I hear this. It's like hip hop almost. It's like hip hop but like bedroom pop, and like it's like got like this auto tune that like R&B, artists would use. It's very interesting. Listen to it for yourself if you haven't yet. I don't know if it's Turnover. I'm actually really confused. I'm like scouring the internet for answers. Somebody give me answers. What is this song that is Racing by Turnover? I don't know this Turnover. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, that was my unprofessional emOpinion on the evolution of the band Turnover. Thank you so much if you watched through this whole thing. Seriously, if you feel ever so inclined, please do subscribe, like the video, comment, whatever suits your fancy. See you next time.